My name is Caleb Lindsay. Today's date is March 7th, 2026, and this is going to be my week 3 submission for FTH 212. So today we are going to be working with the PSA dagger that we put together last week. So first things first, we'll go ahead and clear it. So remove the heat source, unlock it back, visually inspect. There's nothing in the chamber. I'll do a physical check. And we're clear. So the first section of this is actually more of a self-reflection. So part 1, it says, on the assignment you submitted in week 1, consider the following questions and answer them. And then the first part asks, knowing what you know now about striker-fired platforms, would you alter any of the answers you provided? If so, why? And I would automatically say yes. So the first question we had in there, and it's really the only one that I would change, was about it was a SIG P320 dead trigger issue. Okay? After reading what the customer had stated, I immediately went into a failure to fire. That was my train of thought. I'd have to get in there and see exactly why I decided that it was like a failure to fire. What the customer was talking about, it was talking about a dead trigger, right? And he would have to try to rack the slide a couple of times to get it to actually cock, and then he could fire, right? What ended up actually being the issue was a failure to cock. What I could have also done is actually researched more into the P320 itself. So if I would have done that, I probably would have realized that there are a couple of checks that I could have done to determine which internal parts might be failing. One is, actually our instructor brought it up to me. Basically, disassemble the firearm, right? Try to remove the slide. To do that, or before reassembly, I have to have the slide release in its like forwardmost position. And then when I try to reassemble and lock the slide back, if it fails, I can move on to examining more internal parts, right? What the failure actually ended up being was a failure to cock, and I should have caught that. Just even when the customer was stating that he had to manipulate his slide multiple times to get it to fire, that should have immediately clued me in. But on part 2 of this assignment, basically all we're going to be doing is we're going to take our slide here, okay, and we got these with our materials. Okay, I've got some aftermarket night sights that we're going to be putting in. I don't have a sight pusher, so I'm just going to be using my hammer and some punches. And they're on. Questions that they want me to answer. Did you encounter any fitment issues? Nope. This actually went on there pretty perfectly compared to some of the sights that I've installed in the past. This is pretty simple. The front sight went on just like the original, and the back sight, I don't have a sight pusher, but what I did was I used my vise with some soft jaws, and I even put this rag in there with it to get it all started. And then I very gently a brass punch and my hammer, and again this rag to kind of cover up everything. I went ahead and punched it in. Even with the rag, there was a little bit of, I wouldn't call it marring, it was more like brass transfer onto the sight. So what I did was I went ahead and I scraped it right here, just kind of cleaned it up, and then I added some blue ink compound to basically refinish it, touch it up. Precautions that I take to avoid damaging the replacement sights. Like I said, I started it off simple with my soft jaws on my vise just to get everything ready. And then I utilized this a lot to kind of dampen the blows from the punches. Would using a sight pusher have made this process easier? I think it depends on the sight pusher. I've been looking at buying the Real Avid sight pusher. It's amazing, and it probably would have made this even easier. What methods and measurements tools did you use to center your rear sight? I used the school-provided caliper. I got both sides. It's actually 2.21 on both sides, so it's as centered as I can possibly get it using this, a hammer, a rag, and some punches. But overall, not too bad. I'll see if I can get to the range at some point today or tomorrow for the part 3. But if I don't, this is it. This will be the end of my week 3 submission. Thank you.